Okay, it looks like we are live. Perfect, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and record us here to the cloud. All right. Let me make sure I can see us okay here. 2 seconds, 2 seconds. Just got to check out all the tech, James. I got to check out all the tech.
Everybody's dropping off. They're like, what the heck is this live recording? Start talking.
Oh my gosh, Melanie's okay. Yes. Okay. It was showing black before, but now we can actually see. There we are. Okay. Well,
Right.
awesome. Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Here we are in Austin, Texas. And I know this is not my usual playing to win time. This is a totally different time, but I just had to bring a little bit of Jaymes Willoughby into your life today. So James, thank you so much for jumping on a Zoom with me today.
Hey, it's really my honor to be with you because you're awesome. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it was so well, James, I've known you a long time, right? I've known you over 12 years, and you have consistently been one of the very, very best and top listing agents and just agents in general. You have a team, you're very successful, you've been in the business a long time, and you're one of those people that just get better and better and better. And you and I were having a conversation about the market. And you told me something, and I wanted to, I think there's a lot of different energy in the world right now. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy out there.
There's like a lot of fear. There's a lot of people they don't know what decision to make. And so I think that the skill set of the real estate agent is back.
Absolutely. Yeah. The old school making phone calls, talking to other agents. Can you believe that? Agents are talking to agents all of a sudden, which is great because that's my forte is my big mouth, right? And talking with it.
Well, you're very, what do you call it? What is communication? You're gifted in your communication style. Let's just call it that. You've always been a very relational person, right? And so I think it's really interesting. We were looking at statistics, and depending on what part of the city you're in, I mean, units can be down 44%, 30%, 60%.
Yes, it's just all over the place.
It's all over the place, kind of depending, what part of town you're in and things like that. So I want to talk with you about what are some of the things that you're doing differently, because you have been, again, a very consistent year over year growth, successful, go out, make it happen kind of person. And you shared something with me the other day that I was like, let's talk about that a little bit. So what were you telling me the other day?
Well, we just struck up a conversation about 72 sold. And what I was telling you is I said, well, first off, I love Greg. I love listening to this, to the man himself, right? So he laughed because, I'd mentioned I did leave him a 5-star review, and he read it on his podcast or his show or whatever. And he said, 40 years in the business, that's nothing. I've been doing this for like 55 years, So it cracked me up, but I completely understand where he's coming from, and really I was already in alignment with a lot of the things that 72 sold professes that you should do. So I was like, I had different names. I'd actually probably missed out on naming my whole program a name, because as Gary Keller would say, that's a mofer, right? And so
that's right. Make offers for immediate response, right?
Exactly. So I think one of the things I was telling you is that, I've been using what I call I called it reverse price strategy. And people are like, what the heck is that? I said, well, let me explain. That's when you go in, you put a price on it that's so aggressive that everybody, the whole market looks at it that is actually a buyer, and it appeals to a wider marketplace, more buyers in a lower price range. They come out and see it. When they see it, and if it's the way we like to do it, which it's completely staged and looks great, smells great, the whole 9 yards, they make an offer, and they make, we get an offer from this buyer and that buyer, and it's not always the right floor plan for everybody. So not everybody makes an offer, but people that like the floor plan will make an offer. So even in this tough market, we're getting multiple offers, and we're getting it all the time. I mean, we got plenty of stories and plenty of success for doing that strategy. So that's
I love that, James. And I want to dig deeper on that, because you think about 72 sold is a marketing strategy, really, right? That's what it is. And let's just talk about Greg Hague for a minute. So Greg, I know you're going to listen to this, Greg. We all think you're awesome, and how fantastic that he took. So the people that are listening right now, if they don't know who Greg is, Greg started his company I think Hague Partners, he started that in Phoenix. And within like 5 years time, Jaymes, he had 11% market share in Phoenix, Arizona.
That's a tough market. I mean, that's where it's kind of like Austin. It's like everybody wants to be in Phoenix and everybody wants to be in Austin, all the big companies, especially Phoenix, right?
Big time, and a very, very competitive market, right? That's my old region that I was in before. And you think about, so what it was is he took a mofer, right? He took something that created urgency. And honestly, if you think about now in Austin, a year ago, wow, Jaymes, what the market looked like then. I mean, right? Very different than today.
Absolutely. Incredibly fast moving market for sure.
Yeah, and there you needed a different skill, because a year ago you just needed to get the listing, and then it's going to sell. And you had buyers, and I'm sure you guys had this on your team. You saw it a lot. $200,000 over asking price, sight unseen. I'll just take, right? It was crazy. So it wasn't about getting the home sold. It was about getting to the listing to get it on the market to get it sold, right?
Right.
That's not the case anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still about getting a listing, of course.
Of course, always.
It's about getting the listing sold.
That's right.
That's the part. Getting the listing is the first part, but it's like from here to under contract, that's really the art of the deal.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's always been the art of the deal up until this, insane post-COVID market that we had, but that's gone, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, so I find it interesting, we're launching Bold here at the North. You know how we always spring, we do it at the North, and South, we do it, in the fall. And so our coach this time is David Jones, and David just finished Bold in Laredo. Laredo had never had Bold before. And Laredo was pretty consistent between 50 and 60 listings per month. Well, in February, they took 100 listings because of Bold.
Wow. Doubled.
They doubled when you think about a market that's down, anywhere from 30 to 60%. And but the name of the game is also getting sold. And you being such a strong, like, since I've known you, you're literally one of the strongest listing agents that I know. And so when you tell me, you say, Melanie, this 72 sold model, right? Or whatever we want to call it, marketing strategy.
Yes.
It's exactly what I've been looking for. Like, that's what you told me. And so when you tell me that, and I've been telling people, and I've heard a lot of success stories, and I've shared a lot of success stories. What is it about it that you feel that way? I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, so the idea is right when Greg says what you really need to do is your market analysis needs to be a competition-based marketing analysis. What that means is you need to see what who is your competition, how are they priced, how do they look, and price better than them, because it's always been the same truth. No matter what, the next home to sell in any market is going to be the best value home. What's the best value? It's the best price, the best condition, the best marketed home. So that's going to be the next home to sell. So if you position your home like that, then all of a sudden it feels like magic. But the truth is there's no magic to it if you just do everything right. And it's always been my mantra. But the reason why I think I've had a little paradigm shift with this program is it's not just that. There's other details into the program. And you always want your customer to like you, and you want to spread the knowledge of what you know to them and educate them and so forth. But they have a very specific program on being very close to the seller all the way through the process. But because we've condensed this process down into typically just 8 days or maybe two weekends or maybe a little bit longer, when we go under contract, I feel like there's been amazing communication. And if our price doesn't work, that first or second weekend, we know that it's really just the price. It has nothing to do with the marketing, because they've seen my marketing efforts. They like me. They know that that I'm giving them all the information about what's going on in the marketplace. So it makes it a heck of a lot easier that if we do need to improve the price, it's not like I'm making a phone call. In fact, they're probably calling me because we had already talked about that up front.
Love that. I love and you know what I think one of the things for real estate agents and any of us, we're all very entrepreneurial when we're attracted to doing this, right? We want to be our own boss and have our own schedule and like we're attracted to the freedom of it. And what we forget is it's actually the systems around it that gives us the freedom, the systems and the setting the expectations and things like that. And I think that I can only speak for myself. I need systems in my life to be able to, because, we can get distracted. We have a lot going on. And so I think that what you just talked about is that communication with the seller. You're setting it up from the beginning of what the expectations are, and you're putting a system in place. And I feel like systems build confidence. And so now you've already set, it's like setting the expectation with any client, right? When you've had the conversation ahead of time, it's a lot easier to come back and say, well, we know the market's telling us that's not the right price. That's right.
Now, fortunately, I don't have to do that very often because we are having success. So one of the things that I was uncomfortable with is saying that you can get 8 to 12% more, because I'm a numbers guy. So I'm like, God, we should probably tell them like 4%. I certainly don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. But after we've been doing what I call the DIY before we started doing the 72 sold ads. So in other words, we've been doing this program since like August. Well, unbeknownst to me, my assistant has been recording every home that we've been doing the 72 sold strategy on, and we're at 104.3%, I believe. And just all right, well, there's the 4%. But then I failed to remember at that moment that I really need to go back and find out what's the market doing, all the other realtors, right? So I went back in the same time period. I found out that we're getting like 97.2% as a market, right? So then if you took the difference, I'm over 7% higher than my colleagues that are, the members at large of the MLS. So I'm like, wow, now I do have something to brag about. And because I'm I like to call myself kind of a closet nerd, I have, statistics to back it up. So, I work with a lot of engineers. So like I have my stats with me at all times and say, here you go, check this out, and it's all verifiable. So to me, that means it's really working. That. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. So, I
love that.
I'm essentially paying for the commission for the, by getting a higher price. So,
and then some. Actually, you made them 1%, right? Exactly.
Kicking for the title policy and the home market.
There you go. Right? Yeah. That's on me, right? That's on me.
That's on me.
Jaymes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is such a valid point. And I love so many pieces of that, how you're such an integrity person. And I adore that about you. And I always have. And I think you're amazing. But to think about, you're like, well, I'm not going to say 7, I'm going to say 4, because that's really, because your numbers, number one, and you're always authentic. And that's why people love working with you, because you're always going to tell them the truth, right? And you never want to lose that. You never have a second chance to gain trust with somebody, right? So that's incredibly important, that point. And I love that you brought that up. And then you went and studied the market and said, well, actually, they're actually getting, 3 point whatever less. So that does bring me to over 7% more in that seller's pocket by using this sales strategy.
That's exactly right. So that makes me a believer, because, I didn't realize we were tracking it until she just showed me the numbers. And I was like, oh my gosh, and we've had a couple of recent sales that I think are going to boost my numbers up a little bit higher, several that are like 10% higher than what we were asking. So
that's amazing. It's amazing. And you said DIY. I just want to educate people on that, because again, at Keller Williams, this is an exclusive program for Keller Williams. So people know. So if you're listening and you're Keller Williams, you have access to this. If you're not with Keller Williams, you can call one of us leaders at the office and we can tell you about it. But this is exclusive for KW. And you think about the DIY as the do-it-yourself. So the do-it-yourself is basically, Jaymes, 40 years in the business in Austin, Texas. Incredible. How big is your database?
Well, we have over 20,000 people in the database with over 4,000 past clients.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. And I bet a lot of those people are sitting there going, man, we should have sold last year, right? Or did we miss the opportunity, or whatever those questions those sellers ask. Or then the buyers are also thinking, wow, I guess, can I still buy? This strategy is the do-it-yourself, is you're taking the sales, the whole product, advertising this, like you said, the system that they have, and you're
Right.
putting it to work with people that you already know, right? That's one of the, that's
Exactly.
the DIY. I just wanted to let people know. And that's only
Absolutely.
$72 a month, right? To have, and there's like 3 trainings a week. And so you're using that, and that's what you're talking about, on your own database and
That's right.
seeing those kind of results.
Yeah, not just that. I mean, anybody that comes in, we're going 72 sold. I mean, why wouldn't you is my, is my question to any agent. I mean,
Yeah.
we attempted to do it on a lot, but we could never figure out, it's like, there's the dirt, go walk it, but that's about the only case where we haven't done 72 sold. So I
That's
mean,
funny.
one thing I was going to mention to you, because you were talking about, the $72 is a bargain, but I mean, it's an amazing bargain because, I train my, agents that are underneath me, and training is number one thing you need to do with new agents. And so in my opinion, this is the best training program any team could ever have. I mean, I could sit there and tell them about my old stories or whatever, but the truth is that this training is, and I know Greg knows how to train people, but it's time, space, repetition. But if you just follow the program to a T, you're going to have amazing results. Every time I take a little variation, maybe I don't get quite the result I want, but when I follow it exactly, like when I actually go out and show the property myself, or I have someone on my team go show the property, it's hilarious because what happens after the show, and I ask them, do me a favor, and I show them the few, things in the house they should probably know about, but maybe wouldn't see on their own. And then I leave them alone. But I said, hey, before you leave, come out and talk to me, because I have to lock the house up, and give me some feedback if you would. And of course, by this time, I already know the buyer's name. It shook the buyer's hand, right? So there's this rapport building with the customer, not the client, right? They're the potential customer. And when they come out, is about half the time the customer themselves are giving me the feedback, right? And then the realtor's like, hey, I'm just curious, what's your plan? Because I know you said that we're just getting in here, and this weekend you got your grand opening of the listing and so forth. Could we make an offer? And I figured out, at least in the state of Texas, the perfect answer is this: if you make an offer, by law, I have to present that offer, at the next most convenient time. So I won't present it at midnight, but I will present it at 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you get me the offer, I'm presenting the offer, and I want to be an advocate for you. So we'd love to sell it to you, but just keep in mind, you're competing against all the showings that haven't even showed up yet that are going to happen this weekend. So if I were you, I'd really consider the value of this home. And oh, by the way, here's 3 or 4 properties that I've researched that are priced higher, and they don't hold a candle to this one. So, when you bring the offer in, make sure you bring a strong offer in, because I'm going to have to convince the seller to take your offer before I show it to the other 5 realtors that I'm going to show on Saturday. And guess what happens, Melanie?
What?
They bring a better offer than full price, and
Wow.
better terms and everything. So you get, they give it a really great shot on the front end. And so getting an over full price offer when there's no other offers on the table, isn't that great? Isn't that what you want?
Yeah, that's what the seller wants, right? That's absolutely what the seller wants. And you know what? And everything you're saying, though, is honest and in integrity, which is true. You do have other, because it's just so great. So if any Keller Williams agents want to know about it, you can go to 72national.com. And then Jaymes, I want to stay on you for a little bit. Tell me, I would love to know, for our listeners today, how do you stay so successful 40 years in the business? I'd love to hear about that.
I've never thought about that question. I would have to say, because it's, I talk to a lot of other old timers like myself. I guess I'm an old timer, right?
Don't say that. You are nothing old timer about you, darling.
So here's the deal. I think this is the deal to me, is like, hey, I don't have a job. Okay. I really don't. I talk to people. I have fun. Yeah, we solve problems. We have issues, with sellers or whatever, or transactions or crazy agents or whatever. Right. But that's the whole thing. That's not the business. The business is really a lifestyle. So, I've had people ask me, it's like, I say, hey, I might have to cut out for 5 minutes. I might be on a dinner thing or whatever, just for a quick phone call. I'll let them know up front, so I don't surprise them. Most of the time, my assistants or whatever are taking care of it, but they're not on 24/7. So you make it a lifestyle. And if real estate is your lifestyle, then you never feel like you're working because it's just part of your lifestyle. So I definitely have learned to, have a morning routine. I like to take lunch, and I'm more often out of the house now than ever. And I'll make my own, I'll take a whole 45 minutes, make my lunch, sit down, relax, hang out with my dogs or whatever. And then if I know I have a, late afternoon appointment, maybe I'll say, well, gosh, I think I've earned the right to maybe take a longer lunch and sit out at my pool and get a suntan for a half hour or so, or maybe a couple hours, who knows? And then run to that appointment and then come back or do whatever, or hopefully end the day so I can end the day at the pool, right?
There you go.
Right. So, but yeah, make real estate your lifestyle, and
I love that.
Don't apologize because you have to do so, do this or that. But at the same time, keep in mind that, you have a family and you got to stay on track with that as well.
I love that.
Very, very long answer to your short question.
Oh, it's a beautiful answer, Jaymes. It's a beautiful answer. Make real estate your lifestyle. And you do think of that. And I feel like real estate agents don't always give themselves permission to actually have a life. And,
right.
and somehow in our country that we live in, we have been glorified for working ourselves to death. Right. And
right.
so, and I think we can all agree, we work pretty much every day. And so carving out that time, taking a longer lunch, taking a break between a listing appointment to be there with your family, or just enjoying the beautiful day, right? All those things, you get to design that. And I think that's why you have longevity. So I actually really, really, really love your answer, because I think you role model actually a great balance of that. You work really hard. Nobody works harder than you. And yet you still have a life and you are enjoying your life, and you feel that in your energy.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. You're a fun dancing partner. Okay. So just to wrap this up, what about, you've been through multiple markets, right? Mm-hmm. You've been through multiple, after 4 decades. And again, it's not because you're old, it's because you're a legacy. You're at a super high level. When the market changes, do you have any advice for people on how to maneuver with that? Because I think by now a lot of agents have figured out, and buyers and sellers too, they're like, okay, well, this is now the new normal for a while, and we'll see where it goes. Interest rates are up. We've got inflation, your money doesn't go as far as it used to. Any advice to any agent out there of how to really withstand the test of time when markets are adjusting?
Yeah. So actually I make more money in a bad market. And I do because, if you think about it, with this big database, that's great. But you realize that so many people have gotten into real estate. So when people, sometimes I'll get a phone call. It's like, Jaymes, I want to call you, let you know, I just listed my home, but I listed it with my brother-in-law. And, he's been in real estate for about 1.5 years with, brand X or maybe even Keller Williams, right? But I wanted to let you know as a courtesy because, he's in the business and it's a family thing and da-da-da. And you could either throw a script on that and try to reel them back in, or you could say, that's cool because the relationship's so strong that they're willing to call me and let me know so I don't just see their home on the market, right? Well, guess what happens to the brother-in-law when you have a shifted market? He goes back to working for the state or wherever he was working before.
Right.
So I don't wish bad on people, but the truth is that the strong always survive a tough market. And we're really not in a tough market. What it is that we're in a really normal market right now. And would you believe it if I told you we sold more homes last week than we did the same week a year ago? That's the true statistic, right? So I don't really know why people think it's a tough market, but I think it's mindset. I think there's a lot of agents that have fallen into a negative mindset. I'm working with an agent right now, and he's telling me, the Fed rate just went up. And I said, that's good, isn't it? And he's like, why? Why is that? I said, well, if they control this, and raise the short-term rates, that means the long-term rates are going to go down because those guys are looking at the long play and they want to make sure inflation's under control. He's looking at everything like really bad. And I don't really have rose-colored glasses. I've just educated myself to know that's how it works, right? So I get excited and I tell people, isn't it great the rates went up another 0.25%, because that's going to mean that our mortgage rates will come back down. But the one lesson I think that most people are missing, we're in a normal market right now. And interest rates, guess what they do? They went up, right? Guess what they also do? They go back down. So, I can't cry for people when, and I sound a little bit like Gary Keller, but, my first home I sold was 16.5%. A
Wow.
year later, I bought a home myself. I was a 24-year-old kid or whatever, and I assumed a 14% fixed VA loan, no qualifying, by the way. And I thought I got a bargain. And so, when I had a closing, maybe a year ago, and the guy got higher than 4%, I said, I hate to throw my old man card down, but I have to do this. I have to tell you, my first home was 14%. Guess what? We refinanced it down to 10, and then we refinanced it down again to 6.5, which I thought at that time, 6.5. When someone told me it might get that low, I said I didn't believe them because I'd never even seen single digit rates. So the truth is, our current interest rate environment is higher, but it's really not that high. It's not that high. So you have to, number one, if you're not old enough to realize that, talk to your parents, your grandparents, whomever. They'll give you a little history on interest rates. But if you look at rates, I think that's the one thing that scares most agents the most, is they're afraid of the rates. And gosh, there's just so many alternatives. Did you realize there's a 10-year ARM? 10 years. How long does the average person stay in their home, Melanie?
Yeah. Well, it used to be 7 to 10. Yeah.
7 to 10 or whatever,
Yeah.
So do you think in the next 10 years that rates might be lower than 5.25? Because I can get you 5.25, 10 years. I like to call it a 10-year fix, but it's an ARM. It adjusts after 10 years. And an ARM is not a bad word, it's a good word. People should be looking at everything, But so that's the bottom line. We're in a great market. To navigate a great market, I think you need to educate yourself. You need to really find a great lender partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And really get educated on what other things you can do besides a straight up 30-year fixed rate.
Yeah, like creative solutions, right? And they're all around us, but it takes you leaning in more. So I think that skill set is back. But number one, it starts with mindset, is what you just role modeled, right? It's all about what you believe it to be. And then, right. And then investigating, knowing the numbers, knowing, like, that's how you know the variable with you and the 72 sold stuff. And that's how you understand with the interest rates, and that there's 10-year ARMs and stuff like that. So really leaning in, guys. This is not the time. That's why I love the whole theme, Jaymes, for KW right now, is charge the storm.
Absolutely.
Like, I love that.
Right. And that's the truth. I mean, I always say, if you get into a slump, you just sell your way out of it. Right. So I know a lot of agents are slumping, but here's the deal. There's just nothing but opportunity out there, because I keep running into, buyers that were working with another agent, and they didn't realize you could get a 10-year ARM, or they didn't realize there's a home in the next neighborhood over has a little bit lower tax rate, or sometimes a lot lower tax rate here in Austin. And it makes, you could buy $100,000 more a home in one neighborhood versus another, same exact payment, right? So just know how to get those payments to where they need to be, and then also educate them that rates are going to come back down, and I can guarantee you that that's going to happen. So they can always refinance, so charge the storm, baby.
Charge the storm, because, don't be that bear, right, that goes and hibernates. Don't be one of those guys, because if you're just sitting around waiting for things to pass by and get better, they're only going to get better when you get better. And you only get better when you have the confidence to have the conversations with people and help them. I mean, isn't it our job, Jaymes, to be the solution for people? And that's what you are, right? You're the solution. You have so many different, you have mofers, you have a way to get the home sold, you have a way to get buyers into a property that's affordable that they didn't even think was possible.
Right. Exactly.
And you think an opportunity. So that's why I wanted to have a little mini session of Playing to Win with you today and interview you. Jaymes, any last thoughts for our listeners today before we wrap it up?
Well, if you're not part of 72 Sold and you're with Keller Williams, I'm just going to tell you, I fully endorse the program. I think it's amazing. If you have a team and you're not doing it, and you're training anybody, you probably need to train yourself and your team on this program, because it really makes sense. And it's working for me. And it's really, to be honest with you, just the whole synergy of it has got our whole team on fire and excited, and we're really embracing it. And using it as our weapon to close these listings and not, more importantly, to get them sold, right? So it's really great. So that's probably my current advice right now. If you're KW, and if you're not KW, then like,
Get over to KW.
that's right.
Call me. I'll help you get wherever you are. Call me. I will connect you. I have friends all over the world. Yeah. You know what, James, you'll love this. I had a referral for a recruit last month, and it was for Austin, apparently, but it was like Minnesota or something. I got with the guy, we were having this conversation. He has his own brokerage, and then I'm like, "Are you sure, like Austin, Texas?" And then he was like, "No,
Austin,
I
Minnesota."
thought it was Missouri," but it was so funny. So I called the RD. I'm like, "Hey, I have a lead." So funny, yeah. But you know what? I think the other thing is just like, again, that was speaking the same language. I didn't think about that honestly from a team perspective. So that's the other. Thank you for sharing that, because again, it's the training piece. It's that we're all speaking the same language, right? And the more we all speak the same language, the better. Like, we're doing the citywide unification between the Northwest, Southwest, Lake Travis, and we're on calls with Mark King, the president of the company, every morning at 8:27. And we have a system around that. And what he's role modeling is that we're all speaking the same language, right? As a team,
Yes. Yeah.
just like you with your team, right? And so you're a beautiful representative of Keller Williams and just what an awesome agent looks like. So thank you for your time today, James.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Woo-hoo, go charge the storm, baby.
Woo, charge the storm. All right.
Austin, here we come. All right, I'll see you later. Mwah. Thank you. Thanks for
welcome.
listening, guys. Bye.